Hi, this is Rich Lieberman, and it is Friday, and I write, produce, and anchor the Rich Lieberman Bay Area Media Zone. I got to talk to you about something. You'll love this. Shows you the kind of environment that exists today in this ridiculous, unethical San Francisco media zone. It's a joke. I reported the other day, Tuesday morning to be exact, about the incident, and it was a major incident that took place outside the ABC broadcast center on Sunday morning at about 10:30, roughly thereabouts. The building on the Embarcadero that houses, of course, KGO TV, which is owned by the Disney company, and also KRON Television. And at roughly 10:30 that morning on Sunday, an assailant described as a homeless person, a madman, what have you, physically broke into the building, the front door, bashed in the front door, which you see, accosted the security guard at the lobby of the building, beat him up senseless, beat him up unconscious. It was not just a scuffle, it was a major physical altercation, which resulted in the security guard being taken unconscious to a San Francisco hospital, SF General. He had major cuts and bruises, as I indicated. He was unconscious. Now, the guard was subsequently released, but the incident also involved this assailant who made his way up a stairwell into the KGO television newsroom, where numerous personnel, including a video editor, an assignment editor, eventually talked this guy into sitting down and trying to reason with him. And then the cops eventually came and took him into custody. But the guy broke into the newsroom. He beat up a guard unconscious, left the guard traumatized. The incident so punitive that the ABC network sent an executive up who flew up from Burbank to talk to the various parties, talk to the various security apparatus at KGO. Needless to say, there was a lot of unhappy people, a lot of people involved in this internal investigation, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I had a source, several sources, in fact, gave me the information. I got pictures provided, which I published here. I'm not boasting that I was the only one who got the story, but I did get the story. Anyway, San Francisco media ignored this. The TV stations, newsrooms, including one up the street that didn't even report on it. The Chronicle, and I'm not talking about lame SF Gate. I'm talking about the Chronicle, sfchronicle.com, made no mention of it. Nothing. Mind you, a guard beaten up, seriously taken to the hospital. You had an assailant who made his way into the newsroom at KGO TV. Could have been a whole disaster, folks. This has not happened like this, but I'm told this is a constant occurrence, and not just at KGO. I'm not saying it's a constant, meaning what had happened happens all the time. But security is very lame. And there'll be entire discussions, if there haven't already taken place, about the answer to this incident that took place last Sunday in the morning at KGO TV near Cron also. Nobody talked about it. People talked about it, believe me. Nothing reported. Not on SF Gate, the alleged news burrito, best hamburger, most popular item at Trader Joe publication. I say sarcastically, but it's all true. Not a word. In fact, KGO TV itself didn't report on this. Well, you might say, well, why would they report? It's their own undoing. Because it's news. You have to. It's not something where somebody just broke in and there was a robbery. This was an assailant who beat up a guard. The guard was in serious condition. Fortunately, was able to survive and, basically he's got multiple injuries on his body, but they released him. 6 police officers were on scene eventually, but they didn't report this. Neither did any of the other San Francisco TV stations. But the Chronicle, not a word. SF Gate, not a word. Let's talk about the other scam artists in this supposed media zone. San Jose Mercury News, not a word. East Bay Times, not a word. North Bay, Santa Rosa Press Democrat, not a word. Now, mind you, let's say this. Most of these publications are on limited budgets. That's still no excuse not to cover this story. It was a major, major story that involved at least a mention. I'm not saying that because I was the one who reported this. I'm saying it because this was not your run-of-the-mill break-in, robbery, assault. Worse than that. Other publications, not a word. And a lot of it has to do with moi. They don't want to give me any kind of credit. Forget that. Just talk about the acknowledgement, which they would have had to have done because I put out on the headline exclusive. Because they don't have resources. That's what they'll say. They'll also say it wasn't worthy of reporting. BS wasn't worthy of reporting. You have a major television news station, its entire offices invaded, broken into by a guy who beats up a security guard, gets his way into the newsroom, has to be talked into sitting down, and thank God they were able to, I guess, mentally subdue this guy. You had 6 San Francisco Police Department officers. You had a broken down front edge of the door. You see the surrounding nature of what took place. Not a word from any, forget just San Francisco, any media company. Just shows you, folks, what they are existing of today. And they'll use the excuse, well, we don't have any money. Let me just ask you this question. Answer this if you can. Suppose this incident happened in LA. Suppose this incident happened in New York or Chicago or Boston, Dallas, Houston. I'm purposely mentioning major market stations, outlets. Well, San Francisco, last I checked, they were the number 6 market in TV and number 4 market in radio, even though we don't really have any radio left in this market. Not a word posted. It's not just the fact that they would have had to note or acknowledge, I think, my reporting. It's just the fact that the news these days is so controlled, is so defined by what they regard as their own news. And look, this is no sweat off my back. I'm bringing it up only because this is how they operate these days. They don't care about ethics. They don't care about full disclosures on what is news. If this would have been a mere robbery or something where somebody broke in and stole something, okay, I could see that. That's an internal thing. Doesn't involve safety, doesn't involve anyone getting hurt or mugged or assaulted. Your rather basic, mundane break-in, robbery, that kind of a thing that happened to involve a San Francisco Bay Area media company. But this was more than that. I already stated what it was. And, I'm not saying I'm some kind of a savior. Please don't take it that way. What I am saying is, you folks out there, this gives you the kind of environment that we're in. Adding to this insult, these so-called ancillary media sites in the Bay Area. Most cities have them too, like SFist, SFIST.com, or the Examiner, or the Standard. It's a little bit more than an ancillary media company. They're a full-fledged operation, albeit online. Not a word about this incident that took place outside the ABC Broadcast Center on 900 Front. Yet they didn't say anything about it. I guess when it affects their own hide, they don't point it out. Now, thank God this guard didn't die. Thank God, once this crazy man, and he was described as such by various people who talked to me, including some who work at KGO TV, who begged me not to even refer to them. Obviously, I'm not in name. It shows you, again, even major companies, you would think, cover its own rear end, would at least note this, acknowledge it. Not a word. This is what you're dealing with. Mind you, this is, again, a major market crime incident. Yet you don't know anything about it. I reported on it. I'm not, again, boasting about my own situation, but it was significant enough to where there were photos, there was shattered glass, there was a security guard beaten, again, unconscious to a pulp, could have died. You have 6 police officers on the scene, subduing this guy eventually, and finally him breaking into the newsroom at Channel 7. God knows what could have happened had he been able to make his way into the studio, had they had programming taking place. Now, they had no programming taking place at that time. Cron, which is a floor up from KGO TV, indeed had programming taking place. Never made it that distance. Folks, the news here is controlled, it is run, and it is completely censorized. Okay? They don't want you to know a lot of things, especially something that affects their own rear end. But I want to let you know also, you have to be concerned about this because it involves more than just the incident at hand and my stature. You have to understand that this market is unique, and it's not a good unique. It's something that, had I been a just casual observer, no stake in anything, no, as they say, dog in the fight, no pun intended, I'd be concerned myself. I'd be worried. I'd be, well, maybe not so much worried. I'd be annoyed, irritated, and feel totally, well, that they're not telling me everything, that you could at least say there was an incident outside KGO TV, but they didn't say anything. And whether it was me that they would have to acknowledge, whether it was their own bosses, whoever they are, it just shows you. Not only are you not getting sometimes the full story, hell, you're not getting any story. And that would worry the hell out of me if I were a consumer. I'm Rich Lieberman. This has been the Bay Area Media Zone for Friday.